Hi everyone, my name is Simon Misiewicz from Optimise Accountants, and I'm lucky to have a special guest with me today to provide you with an update on coronavirus. And in particular, if you are an employer or indeed you are an employee, there are some very important things that you need to do and act upon straight away. So without further ado, let's introduce my special guest. So would you do me a favor and just let everyone know your name, of yourself, obviously, and of your organization and what you do.
Thanks, Simon. Yes, I'm Cheryl Wiley. My organisation is Peak HR. I'm a general human resources consultant, so I specialise in helping smaller businesses with general staff issues.
Right. And how long have you been established for, Cheryl, just to give people a picture?
So 5 years. I've been working in the HR field for 22 years now, but I've been running my own business for 5 years.
Good stuff. So obviously we know coronavirus financial impact as much as an emotional upset for many people, a psychological issue for many other people. From your perspective, we need to obviously focus on the financial impact for employers and employees. There is a strange word that's come out of the government in terms of the furlough. What does furlough actually mean?
Yeah, it's not something we actually use in employment law over here, but essentially it means to lay somebody off. So that is something that we often hear in this country, and basically it means to almost kind of put a pause on things. So people continue their employment, but they are not doing any work for the organisation. Normally, we see that this coincides with a period of non-payment. So there are some small statutory payments, but I won't confuse you with all of that at the moment. For these purposes, we know that the government are actually funding 80% of people's salaries.
Okay, and that's a good point, because obviously in the last day or two there's been some pretty new updates. Can you summarize what those updates are for us?
Yeah, of course. So obviously we got the overarching summary from the Chancellor last Friday, but last night we did actually get the detail of what this actually means. So we know which businesses are eligible, and that's quite all encompassing actually. So most businesses and charities are eligible. We also know who is eligible, as in which employees. So full-time, part-time employees, and crucially there's been a big question mark over whether 0 hours and casual staff will be included, but we know that they are. So it's anybody that falls on the payroll system really. If they're on the PAYE system, we know that they will be eligible for this scheme. But also there's been a big question about new starters in organisations as well. So people that have joined after the 28th of February won't be eligible for this. So there is a bit of a gap there. So anybody, and it will be quite a significant number of people that won't actually be eligible if they've started employment in March.
What would happen, I mean, from your advice, obviously, that would suggest that the employer still needs to pay those people, but if they're unable to work because of coronavirus and ignoring the fact that it's a health issue, so we'll ignore that. But if the employer says, well, actually, we can't have you working in our organization because we're a shop front, for example, what do they do?
The options that they've got available to them, if they can't continue to pay them and can't have them working, they have the option to lay them off, so in the traditional sense of the word, which is a period of non-payment, but be careful around looking at what might be in your employment contract about that, because it is a contractual right that you need to have. If that's not available to you as an option, really the only other way that you can deal with this is to let them go, sadly.
Right. I mean, that can put a lot of employees in a problematic situation, because they may have well left an employment which they would have been covered by this coronavirus and government grant, but now they have left that position, going into a new position where the employer could turn around to them and say, well, actually, we're not going to take you on. That's devastating for those employees. What do they do?
Well, the option that's open for them, I agree, is completely devastating. And who would have thought that we would be in this situation? But the option really for them is to go and apply for universal credit. And there has been a significant uplift in the level of universal credit that's available. So that really is the option. But also we know that there are an awful lot of jobs that have been created in the supply chain for supermarkets and things like that. So all might not be lost. There still might be some hope of getting some employment there.
Okay. And in terms of the employer's responsibilities, obviously that we know that there are legal considerations in regards to making an employee furlough. What are those exactly?
Well, we need to make sure that we've got the legal right to lay somebody off in the contract of employment. If we don't actually have the legal right to lay somebody off, we can do this by consultation and get their consent to do so. At the moment, we are seeing employers that don't have that legal right to lay somebody off. But of course, because this scheme is about preserving jobs and the job market at the moment is so very uncertain, then we are seeing employees willingly agree to this. So that's the situation, really. There has been no change to employment law. So we always need to make sure that we are acting within the confines of current employment law and what might actually be in the contract of employment.
Okay. I mean, the one lesson that is always going to be there for everyone is communication, and not to allow coronavirus or any other situation that may arise to allow you to bury your head in the ground. It is about having open communication from the employer to the employee. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah. There's no excuse really for, just because we may have people on furlough and sitting at home, there is no excuse to not be communicating with them. It's a stressful time for everybody involved. It is certainly stressful for business owners and employers, wondering how they're actually going to get through this period. But they need to be keeping their employees involved and informed as to how the business is actually going to be impacted and what it means for them.
Okay. One of the questions that has arisen, and I can see that the government has issued a statement around fraud. Now, I'm going to use that term very loosely at my next question, but there has been suggestions whereby you are a one-man band, or you've got maybe one or two employees. You as a director who works in the organisation just decides, well, actually on coronavirus, I'm going to just slope off, not do any work. I could, but I'm choosing not to, and therefore I'm going to be paid this 80% by the government. Are there any issues around that, or can you see that that should be totally fine?
Well, in the case of employees, we know that they shouldn't be doing any work at all. I've had conversations with employees who are saying, well, how actually will anybody know? We don't know is the answer, but from my experience, and I know I sound a little bit cynical, I don't actually put my trust in employees not to actually dob you in. If relationships turn sour with employees, you don't want them having this as a hold over you, essentially. So no work means no work. Okay, for individual sole traders, people who work on their own, realistically, and this will be something that gets brought up in a claim. How can you keep your business going if you're not working? So to furlough yourself as a sole trader could be very, very dangerous. It will be very suspicious, and I think the HMRC will be quite keen on flagging that one up. So don't do it.
And to be fair, that was one of my issues around this whole fraud departments being put on, and they did say that coronavirus would give light to a lot more fraud cases. And I rather suspect that a lot of our clients are one-man bands. They've got a limited company, they are a director, but still, they are their own business owners, and without them, everything would shut down. And technically speaking, I guess if you are a one-man band, you could do other things, such as administration, marketing, and some things like that. It's just whether it's an income generating activity. So if you're a consultant as a one-man band right now, I guess you could legitimately put a claim into the government. But if you have got other activities where you've got income still coming in, I think that could be quite suspicious.
Absolutely, and it is the revenue generating activities that have been specified by the government. So yes, you will still have administration for the business to do. We'll have accounts that we need to be looking at and things like that. But yes, if you are a business consultant and you're not going out to see clients and all of that kind of work, that revenue generating activity has stopped, yes, you can genuinely furlough yourself as an employee or as a sole trader and access the schemes that are available to you. But if you start to get contact again from businesses, then that would probably be the point that you need to stop being furloughed and take yourself back onto the book, so to speak.
That's fair. That's good advice. Let's talk about the grant itself. It is a grant. In your view, is this repaid, or is this money that's coming from the government and ultimately will be paid by taxpayers as a whole?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be paid back. It's not a loan, it is a grant. It is being given by the government. It's being funded by the government at significant cost. I do think that we're going to see something on the other side of that. I think we're all going to feel the pain eventually. There's going to be a significant bill that the government need to repay on this. So yes, I think we can all agree that we're going to see taxes go up on the other side of this. But yeah, these are unprecedented times, and I think it's whatever the government need to do to get us through this, really.
And I read on the government's website that these grants are available, and there was a lot of literature that's on the government website, but there's no visibility of the portal itself, and my understanding it's not going to be ready until the end of April before we can even access the portal. So that means we've got a long delay. So does that mean that employers are still expected to pay their employees throughout this period, even though furlough?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you're not, again, this is a part of contract law. So you're contractually obliged to pay your employees on the required period, whether that's monthly or weekly, and you need to continue doing that. That's going to create significant cash flow problems for some businesses. So certainly hospitality businesses and those that have had to shut down completely and will have no income coming in, that will cause them some significant difficulties. But the government have said that there are loans and schemes that can be accessed, and I think the Chancellor talked yesterday only about getting money in the bank accounts within days. So I know that they're trying to put some pace on these loans that are available to businesses. So if you are going to struggle and you don't have those cash reserves, I would encourage businesses to be actually looking at accessing those loans wherever they possibly can.
Yes, I mean, just an update from my side on that aspect is the British Business Bank have got funds in place for people to pull on. My understanding is, albeit they're saying it will be a matter of days, I think they are misjudging that, because the British Business Bank are saying it could take several weeks to get through that application process, because they've still got to do credit checks. And my understanding on top of that is the fact that interest rates are a lot higher once you do come out to the back end. So it may be better for you as the business owner to contact your banks where you've got mortgages in place or loans already existing, or indeed overdrafts, and speak to them first, because my bank, which is NatWest, have been very forthcoming in terms of support and getting it done rather quicker than what the government can do with these loans. So just a point of fact on that one for you. From your side of things, Cheryl, obviously, what are your clients worried about with this process at the minute? And what are the biggest volume of calls that are coming into you?
So my clients are worried about cash flow, and it is how they're going to continue to pay their employees between now and when this money starts coming in at the end of April or beginning of May. So that's a significant concern for them. But also the large volume of calls, I mean, it's changed week on week. So last week before the Chancellor's announcement, it was, how do I start home working? What do I do? Who can do it? What do I need to do? And we were putting policies in place around safe home working and things like that. Whereas, of course, from Monday, after the Chancellor's announcement, only last week, it feels like a lifetime ago already, but on Monday, it was all about this furlough scheme and what does it mean? And of course, there was very, very limited information that came out on Friday. So it was an awful lot of using our background knowledge really as HR professionals and employment specialists as to what this was actually going to mean. So when we looked at people who got irregular hours and irregular earnings, how were we supposed to calculate what that meant for those individuals? But we use our knowledge of how this is applied in other areas of employment law to kind of estimate where the government are going to expect us to be on that. So lots of enquiries this week about the furlough scheme, what it means, how to put it into place. But then, of course, we move on to future planning as well and what this is actually going to mean on the other side of this for businesses.
That's interesting. I mean, you and I have obviously had conversations about risk. We've not had, as a business, had to call upon the furlough scheme at all for our employees, and we've been trying to work ways about moving employees to different roles to make this happen and to safeguard the business, but also safeguard our employees. From your side of things, I mean, people are trying to do this on their own. How much of a risk could they be facing if they get this all wrong?
Significant risk. I don't want to scaremonger, but of course, wherever we have to change or amend how somebody is working within an organisation, it creates a risk. So if we're deviating from the contract of employment, whether that's in terms of hours, job role, job title, salary, there is always a risk that goes around that. And we know that we can't unilaterally vary the terms of the contract, even temporarily. So we should always be keeping the communication and the dialogue flowing with the employees so they understand what it is that the organisation is trying to achieve for them and for the sake of the business. So as long as we get consent to the things that we're wanting to do, then we should be safe. And of course, getting everything in writing, getting signatures, getting consent in that way is the best way to safeguard yourselves.
Great. And I think that's invaluable. I always appreciate professional advice, not assuming that I know everything, because I simply do not. But anyone watching this, it is really about getting yourself a HR specialist to support you through this. Don't feel isolated in this regard, but do seek out professional advice. Talking of which, Cheryl, what's the best way of contacting you?
Probably in the first instance, at the moment, I'm spending an awful lot of time on the phone, so probably best to email me in the first instance, and you can do that at cheryl@peakhr.co.uk.
Fantastic. Cheryl, thank you ever so much for today. And for everyone listening into this video, please do stay safe. Please do get professional advice. And please do try and do as much as you can to support yourself as an individual, your company, and your employees. Well, why not book a call with me, Simon Misiewicz, your Finance Tax Director, for at least an hour to understand how we can help you grow your business without paying the tax.